Dobbo, back at Priestfield this Saturday. A tough game in store for us. Carl Robinson's sides are always very competitive. What sort of game are you expecting?
They're a good side. They had a game against Oldham last weekend. It was a 1-0 win for Salford, but it could have been 6-3. They created a lot of chances. They flood bodies forward, got good individual players, good dribblers at the top end of the pitch. So we know it's going to be a tough game, as they all are. But this team have got some really good individuals in key areas. We're going to have to be our best to deal with them.
It's the last game before we have that sort of mini break, if you like, for the FA Cup first round. So it'd be nice to get a positive result going into that break.
Absolutely, yeah. We always want to win. We want to win every game. Sometimes circumstances conspire against you, and it doesn't happen. But no, we've had a good week again in training. The boys are in good spirits, and we just take each game as it comes. We don't get too bogged down in results. You know, we're process driven, and as long as the processes are right, I think you'll get results more often than not.
So a bit of housekeeping. Romeo Hutton's red card was rescinded, so presumably he's available for selection Saturday. And Sam Gale suspended due to 5 yellow cards.
That's correct.
Lovely.
Yep.
I thought I was right, but I thought I'd check. Who else comes into the group? Anybody come in? Does anybody miss out?
Aaron Rowe might be back with us at the weekend. We'll see what part he can play. But the others are still going to be a little while, I think.
Lovely. And obviously, Gareth, there was a picture on social media yesterday, him looking his normal positive self. I'm sure you've spoken to him this week, but how is he? Yeah,
we've spoken a lot this week. So yeah, he's okay. He's obviously the magnitude of what he's been through is hitting home, and he has good days and bad days. He's desperate to be back in and around us, but it's just sensible that he isn't, and that he fulfills his obligation to recovery and what the doctors have told him. So yeah, he'll be back when he can, but no one's going to rush him. No one would expect that. We're fine as we are. The place is running like clockwork, as you would expect. The staff have been really good. So I think for Gareth's health, the best thing is that he does as he's told and listens to the doctor's advice.
Lovely. Dobbo, thank you. Ben, all yours.
Richard, just starting on Gareth and his health, did he watch the game live last week? I'd imagine that probably wasn't necessarily what the doctor ordered.
Yeah, the last 2 games haven't been great for him, have they? He watched it, yeah. He was kind of like the rest of us. What can you do in them circumstances? You've got to just suck it up and get on with it. The game was lost through decisions out of our control. And all we can control is the response to them decisions and to the adversity. And to a man, I thought they did that excellently. Really pleased with the mentality of the players. We've swept that up this week in terms of our review and gone through it. But if they keep doing that 11v11, then they'll be in a really good place.
How pleased were you the way that they responded, kind of tactically, to the challenges? Because you were having to change things around, almost every 10-15 minutes with the way that the circumstances played out.
Yeah, they've been a tactically adaptable group since we walked in. So that is one of the major positives that we found when we came in here, that we've changed formations, we've changed tactics based on who we're playing against and where we think their weaknesses will be, and we've been able to do that with this group because they picked it up really quickly. There's some bright minds in there. So it was a case of doing the same again at the weekend, and I think it was a fascinating game up until the sending off, because you've got a team that is quite expansive and wants to flood bodies forward, and we were happy just to sit there and hit them on the counter-attack, and actually Seb had probably the best chance in the first half through doing exactly that. So there was a bit of cat and mouse being played until 35 minutes, and then the game changes and they have to adapt tactically in terms of their defensive responsibilities. But they sort of moulded around Grimsby's shape really well. Even with 9 players, the shuffling across, and we allowed players to have the ball in. We've got certain areas that we try and filter people into in areas of the pitch, and they did it really well. And I showed them the clips from the weekend and said, look how well you've done this with 9 players. If we can do this with 11 players, it's going to be hard for people to create chances. So yeah, absolutely delighted with the response, delighted with the tactical adaptability of the team, and it will serve us well going forward.
You spoke the other day about having to break down low blocks here at Priestfield, and obviously the last 2 home games you've created a lot of chances. Are you expecting it to be a little bit more like the Grimsby one, a little bit more open with the fact that it's 2 teams in the playoff places?
Yeah, I think that's the way that they play anyway. I don't expect them to be coming here and putting a block on at the weekend. So I think it's going to be a more open game. They'll try and attack us, we'll try and attack them. So I think it'll be an interesting game for the fan. It might not be quite as frustrating for us in terms of having to break down a team that's come for a draw. They're a team that plays to win. They're a nice side to watch. I quite enjoy, or I have enjoyed watching their games from when you try and look at it from a neutral perspective, you like what they do. But yeah, I've got a couple of players there that I know well. Kadeem Harris, I signed at 14. We gave him his debut at Wickham at 16. He was a real talent for us as a young player, so quite looking forward to seeing him. Been a little while since we've crossed paths. And
Carl Robinson, have you come across him a few times in your career?
Yeah, many times actually. Yeah. And unfortunately for him, one of them was in the playoff final, so we kind of spoilt out his night that night. But Carl's been good whenever we've come across him in the past. There's a mutual respect. He's obviously done well over the years, and he's had longevity as a manager, which is tough to do. But you get certain people that tend to ride through the storms in their careers and come out the other side. And Carl's been one of those. So I respect him. I respect what he's done in the game, and I respect the team he's building at Salford.
Just going back to Gareth, and is he able to kind of put more input into what you're doing going forward? Are you chatting daily at the moment?
Yeah, he's had input from the very start, and as I've said before, we've been nothing but respectful of Gaz's role. We've included him as much as is possible with tactics and Zoom calls and team selection. So he's had an input. He's finding it difficult not being in and feeling it. It's different watching from afar to getting a feeling on the day and in the environment. And I think that's one of the tough things for him. But we speak regularly. We talk a lot about players and team and what we've seen when we've watched our opponents, and he's done likewise. And we'll have a call straight after this and catch up with him later.
Must have been nice for him to have Joe Comper and Brad Gallinsing go and see him as well and have a bit of a working lunch.
Yeah. I think it would have been a relief for him to get out of the house, and I think he's going a little bit stir crazy at the moment. But it would have meant the world to him to have them to turn up on his doorstep, and I know how much he thinks of them too, and how close they are. So it would have been great for him to have that reassurance, and I think they've reassured him that he needs to take as much time as he needs to take. There's no rush for him to get back. He needs to make sure his health is of paramount importance and more important than a result of a football game. So we obviously will respect that, but it's just nice when it comes from the top for him to hear that. It just gives him that permission to recover as he should do.
I was listening to your pre-match last week, and I don't think I've ever heard a coach talk about a particular training session in the way that you did about the one on the Tuesday. You often hear managers go, yeah, we've had a good week or whatever. But yeah, it was really interesting to hear you speak so glowingly about that one session in particular. I guess it's just about trying to translate that into the Saturday.
Absolutely that, yeah. It's fans only see a snapshot of a week, so they see 3 till 5 on a Saturday. And there's a lot that goes on during the week that they don't necessarily hear about. And I think it's quite nice for fans to hear probably a little bit more detail of what goes on behind the scenes. And whilst we can't give everything away, and we won't do that, there are times in my job, it isn't just about a result on a Saturday. It's about the environment that you're creating. It's about the stepping stones that you're putting in place to improve the team. And certainly last Tuesday, I come away so encouraged by what I'd seen. I know these boys have got more in them, and it's about cajoling them and encouraging them to bring that out. And when you see a training session like I saw last Tuesday, I went home absolutely buzzing. It was a really good day. You can hear the noise of the boys. They were really pleased with themselves. So you kind of go, well, if you can recreate that in a game at some stage, then it'll be great for the fans to see. It'll be great for the boys to play in it, and fingers crossed we can move towards doing that more often. There is obviously, of course, risk involved on Saturdays that there isn't in training, so they are more risk averse in training, but when 3 points are at stake, and it's a tougher proposition with the opposition out there, then you tend to lose a little bit of the creativity that we saw on the Tuesday. So it's encouraging them to do it at the right times. Obviously we want to try and get results. We don't want to turn into the Harlem Globetrotters by any stretch of the imagination. There's got to be done. Everything's done at the right time for a reason. But it's nice that they're just opening up a little bit and showing a creative side that I truly believe they've got in them.
How desperate are they and yourself to get this victory then on Saturday?
Yeah, always desperate. Yeah, always desperate. We, as I've said from the start, we've never been outcome driven. So we don't talk about wins and losses. We talk about performances, and because there are so many variables in football, you can't control them all. And as I've said in the past, when Manchester City, Manchester United, Arsenal, Chelsea spend millions, billions of pounds, and Leicester win the Premier League, it just goes to show you that there are things that can't be controlled no matter how much money you spend on it. Yeah, we were at the on the receiving end of one of them at the weekend. You can't control those things no matter how much you plan and prepare for it. So the wonderful thing about football is that it is a game where anything can happen. You turn up in hope. Sometimes the best laid plans, and you have a great week in training, the best laid plans, and within 5 minutes you're going, this isn't working. The variables that contribute to a win or a defeat are so vast that you're trying to control as much as you can possibly control, but you're left to the lap of the gods sometimes in terms of decisions and good fortune, and sometimes just an individual's mistake that goes against you or goes for you.
You were saying as well the other day about how you thought you were going to be the baddie with a full squad of players to pick from and leave people out, and then obviously Saturday, no Johnny Williams due to suspension, no Sam Gale, Aaron Rowe might come back in. Are you going to have to adapt a little bit in terms of what's been quite a continuous and the personnel's been pretty similar over the last few weeks. Are you going to have to tweak that a little bit this week?
Yeah. We will do. Yeah, we're suddenly a little bit short again, just in terms of having options. The more options you've got, the better it is. The more you can change games, and we're sort of a little bit stifled there with the wingers. Although Rowie coming back in might help us there. But yeah, we'll put out a side that we think is the best side to beat Salford. We've had a look at where we think there might be weaknesses, and our team will reflect that. And everybody will play a part. The guys that are on the bench at the moment, they've got an opportunity. Whilst others are out, it's their opportunity to come in and shine. So I hope that they take that. I'm sure they will. I think they're a wonderful group to work with. They really want to do well at the club, and I just hope that their ambition to achieve something doesn't end up eating them up a little bit. You've got to, when you work in elite sport, when you hit what's called in psychological terms, when you're in flow, you're relaxed and you're comfortable. And I think sometimes you can try too hard and become a little bit too tense. And I just hope the boys don't feel like that at the moment, just because we haven't had a result for a little while.
And just finally from me, you're hopeful that Armani Little will be fit enough to start, possibly?
Yeah, that's a hope. Obviously we've got to decide which way we do that with him. But he's trained. He's had a 4-week training under his belt. He's a proper pro. So when he comes back into the fold, he gets himself up to speed pretty quickly. So it's good to have him about. You hear his noise on the training ground. He's barking instructions and supporting the other players, and so he's just a really good character to have around in the squad and around the dressing room on match days.
100%. Well, best of luck for it.
Thank you.
Question I was asked by us fans I spoke to who went to Grimsby, how did you keep composure?
Do you know what? A lot of training is the answer. So many years ago, when I was a youth team coach, I had been on. I was one of the first on the FA psychology courses that were run back there. So I was one of the first 25, and one of the first 25 to come through all 5 levels. And along the way, I met some really great people. The tutors were first class. I met a guy on there who is a psychologist, but also a licensed football coach. Worked at top clubs and worked with the FA, coaching other teams' national coaches. And he came to me one day and said, I'd really like to work with you. I find you quite interesting. And I thought about it, and I thought, I don't really know this guy. Let's have a look at it. And as I got to know him over time, I thought this guy is the most intelligent guy I've ever come across. his ability to read people, body language, choice of language, all these things. I thought these are the missing skills in football that you're not taught on the coaching courses. These are the softer skills that actually can just gain you that edge. So I went to work with him, paid him to do it, and at one stage he gave me 5 criteria that I had to evaluate myself on with every game. And so 10 o'clock on a Saturday night I'd sit down and I'd type him an email, and one of them was emotional control. And then he'd bounce an email back to me, and sometimes at 2 o'clock in the morning we were still firing emails backwards and forwards. But that time in my life, the time spent working with him, has been absolutely invaluable. I remember reading Sir Clive Woodward's book, the old England rugby coach, and he used an acronym TCUP, thinking clearly under pressure. And I think when your emotions are all over the place, you don't think clearly under pressure. So as tough as it was to bite my tongue at the weekend, and I think the fans like to see emotion in managers because they can connect to that. But it's not always the right thing to do given the circumstances. And on Saturday, I just had to keep reminding myself, think clearly under pressure, give the boys the best chance of getting something out of this game. And that was all that was going through my mind throughout the game.
You've spoken about what a great punch are, what you've seen him go through since you took over. Were there any thing that you saw Saturday you hadn't seen before?
Do you know, everybody's got a breaking point, and you wonder what the breaking point is for this team. So going down to 9 men for 35 minutes could be a breaking point for a lot of sides. They could get to the point where they go, do you know what, now this has just become too tough. And as you saw with a previous, I think Grimsby have had that 2 or 3 times this season, but they're playing against 9 men, and Cheltenham got beat 7-1. So they could have easily have done that to us had we hit that breaking point. The most satisfying thing for me was that they never broke. And not only did they not break, with 10 minutes to go, they started to press, started to force errors, and found another ounce of energy from somewhere to try and match 11 players and push forward. And that for me was just fantastic. My team talk on Saturday will be whatever we did last week with 9, you bottle it and you do it with 11 this week, because I thought it showed some real spirit and some real guts.
Has there been any extra determination you've seen from the boys?
I wouldn't say extra in terms of, I think their attitudes have been spot on since we walked through the door. I've not ever come away from a game thinking we could have done a little bit more, or I wish the boys had put a little bit more into that game. And as I reflect on the last few games, you look at MK Dons, and it was our 3rd highest physical output of the season. Cheltenham at home, I don't think anyone could fault the effort that was put into that game. And then you go into the Grimsby game, and so I have no qualms about attitude and the endeavour that they put into these games. I would like us now to finish teams off when we get our chances, to make them moments count. I truly believe that we'll play a team and we'll have 3 chances and score 3 goals, and all of a sudden it'll be a 3-0 win, and we might not have created as many chances as we have done in recent games, but that's the way the game goes sometimes. And I think, if I'm honest, they deserve a little bit of a break somehow this weekend. A little bit of fortune or a little bit of luck. I'm not a great believer in relying on luck. You make your own luck, but I think they probably do deserve a little bit of a break this weekend after the last couple of weeks.
And finally, with Salford and Cheek, with what happened on Saturday in Gareth's position, I bet you that he wasn't an offside, was he?
Yeah. I think he would have been jumping up and down on that touchline. I've got to say, off the back of the weekend, I had a chat with the head of refereeing during the week. It was a conversation that was exactly how a conversation like that should be between 2 people. I thought he was really professional, showed good empathy. We discussed a lot of things, not just about the weekend's refereeing, but other things within the game that I have slight concerns about. He listened, and they're going to feed it back to a working group. It's a collaboration of all the parties involved in the game. I thought that he dealt with it excellently, and I hope that they They do their due process in terms of the feedback they give their referees and the support they give them to ensure that a young referee has a better future. You know, we don't want to lose young referees from this game. They're the future of that side of the game, and you know, we need to support them as best we can. And as tough as it is to take games like last weekend, where you're literally writing off a game, you know, in your season, we have to see the bigger picture here. We want good people involved in the game, and they're going to make mistakes when they're young.